Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Drive with Jamie Lynn, Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Hines. I would encourage you, and I know that Jamie would agree, and so would Jeff, to make going to doubletsportsnetwork.com a regular part of your day, because you never know what you're going to see when you go there. And you're going to see fantastic stories and photos from games and things like that, analysis from time to time. Our podcasts are there. You can listen to the entire shows of our various programs there, like the Morning Drive or the Bottom Line or End of the Bench or Tech Talk. But then, Jamie, yesterday I saw the headline that the person who was driving the golf cart after the game on Monday night to take Ryan Day and Will Howard and others to a press conference, the driver of that golf cart is from Lubbock. So unfortunate for her. But there you go, making the headlines happen. Go to doubletsportsnetwork.com and you'll be smarter for it.
Giving a bad name to Lubbock drivers, huh?
It's unfortunate. I mean, sure, she was excited, and just ran into the wall and, just snapped the axle and wouldn't go after that. So that's a bad high, as they say. And, I guess they'd already maneuvered around some areas, and I don't know how much further they had to go in that stadium. I've never been in that arena there in Atlanta, but anyway, you can read the full story. Just go to doubletsportsnetwork.com and you'll see other things there as well that will interest you if you've got a sporting mind, including an article on last night's basketball game with Texas Tech winning by 10 over Cincinnati. I wanted to get your take on the baseball voting, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Jamie. You get 3 in, but Ichiro Suzuki falls one ballot short, being unanimous, much like Derek Jeter did. I wonder if it's the same person, and I wonder why. Of course, we're still trying to wonder why on Derek Jeter, on how you would leave him off of your ballot.
Or Ken Griffey Jr., who wasn't on 3 ballots. I don't understand that, but I definitely thought the 3 guys that got in definitely were deserving, and excited for all 3 of those guys.
And then Carlos Beltran, just on the outside looking in, at about 70%. Jamie, I think he might get in next year.
Yeah, it feels that way. That was a little bit surprising to me, so good for him.
Yeah, all those hits he's going to get this next year really are going to push him over the edge. It's ridiculous that he's having to wait another year. It's either you are or you aren't a Hall of Famer. It's a binary position. His batting average isn't going to go up. His hits aren't going up. He's not collecting a walk. He's not getting a home run. He's not even getting it at bat. The only stats that are going to improve technically is he's not going to commit an error. Mm-hmm. Like, either you are or you aren't. I think he is. I think he's deserving of it with regards to his play on the field. But
his play on the field, there's no question.
Right.
If you feel like he's being punished for his sign-stealing stink right now.
Sure, and if you think that's the case, that's fine. Then why did his percentage go up?
Okay, let me ask you this, Jeff, because you seem to be the most irritated by this. Should they only vote 1 year then? I mean, if it's you're in and you're out, you're not going to improve. Should you only be eligible 1 year to be on the Hall of Fame ballot, and after that?
I'm asking for some consistency, Chuck. Why do numbers? I have surrendered the fact that there's a difference between a first-year ballot Hall of Fame guy and a second ballot Hall. I totally get that the first ballot should be special. Fine, totally get it. So after the second year, your numbers should no longer go up. And yet every single year, the longer you are on the ballot, your numbers go up. It might not go up a bunch, but they go up. Or you fall off the ballot because you've fallen below the 5% that you need to get to stay on the ballot.
I mean,
they don't get a hit.
Rational.
They don't get a strikeout. They don't get an earned run. It is ridiculous, the fact that Hall of Fame baseball players have had to wait now 10 years or before 15 years to get in because the baseball writers finally decided that they've suffered long enough and can be elected to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't know if suffering is the point that they're trying to do. I think there is a point of, we think this guy's a no-brainer. He's a first ballot. We think this guy is, pretty close to that, but he's not. So maybe he's voted in the second or third year. And there's other guys that are borderline that take a little bit longer. It's interesting, though, that somebody could in 1 year say no and then the next year say yes. I mean, as to Jeff's point, what changed? So I'm surely not going to try to stick up for the baseball writers. I think they've done just a terrible job with the Hall of Fame and making it a bit of a joke. I just, again, picking and choosing who they want to be in that has steroid stink and that doesn't have steroid stink, I just think is an incredible joke.
Now,
and that bothers me to no end. And so they've made a mockery of the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, with regards to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there's a limited number of guys that can go in every year. It's not like baseball could put 15 guys in if they got 75% of the vote. Like, that is perfectly allowed with the baseball the way it is currently set up. Now, mathematically, I don't think you can get 15 guys with 75% of the vote, but you get my point. The reason football players take so long is because of the people in front of them that have been waiting longer, and then occasionally one person jumps the line because of how good they were.
And remember that 1 year they did put a bunch of guys in just to kind of help.
But we remember that is the 1 year. Like, it's the 1 year they did that because they were trying to get a bunch of guys in that deserved to be in. It wasn't he doesn't deserve to be in this year, but in 4 years we can put him in. It's we just limit how many people we can put in every year. It's a different conversation between the two, with guys having to wait and guys getting in with regards to football and baseball.
Yeah. Next year, among those on the list will be Cole Hamels, and he'll be a guy that should he be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I don't know that he's a Hall of Famer, period.
Okay.
I just don't think he was great for long enough of a time.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
He's very good. I mean, but again, it's just going to get stacked up. But your point is good. Your point is good, Jeff, and it is what it is. Somebody points out that Willie Mays and Hank Aaron weren't unanimous either, right? Doesn't mean that just because they weren't doesn't mean that somebody in the future shouldn't be.
Yeah, but I do think that's part of it now. I think that guys look at those guys and say, well, they weren't, so we can't put these guys.
Well, we were idiots in the past, so we can't be smart now.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That's totally fair.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
We're going to start in 1960 today with this day in sports history. 10th NBA All-Star Game took place at Convention Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. East beats the West 125-115. Big reason for that was probably Wilt Chamberlain from the Philadelphia Warriors playing center.
Seems like they should always have a place called Convention Hall in Philadelphia. That seems very appropriate.
Sure does.
1977, Texas Tech junior Mike Russell follows up a 42-point performance with a 32-point game against Baylor in a 79-66 win in Waco. 1983, Houston is the first NBA team to be held scoreless in an overtime period. Portland Trail Blazers outscored them 17-0 to win 113-96. Jamie, when I say the sweetest swing in baseball, who do you think of?
Probably Tony Gwynn.
That's a great answer.
Ted Williams?
Will Clark, National League MVP today in 1990, signs a $15 million 4-year contract with the San Francisco Giants.
If you just said the cockiest guy in baseball, then I would have said Will Clark.
And in 2018, New Orleans Pelicans' DeMarcus Cousins has 44 points, 24 rebounds, and 10 assists in a 132-128 double overtime win over the Chicago Bulls. He is the first player since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 72 with 40 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists in a game. You do something for the first time since Kareem did it, that's cool. Impressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I don't care that it was double overtime. You were still the first person to do it since Kareem did it.
Sure.
It is National Blonde Brownie Day. These are not brownies made by blondes. These are just the yellow brownies.
I am a big fan of the blonde brownie. Huge fan of the blonde brownie.
Birthdays today. Michael Davis turns 29 today. And Davis Webb is 30. Mm-hmm. Caitlin Clark, 23. Guy Fieri is 57. Gabriel Mock is 53. And Steve Perry is 76. And on this day, 1998, in Sacramento, California courtroom, Theodore J. Kaczynski pleads guilty to all federal charges against him, acknowledging his responsibility for a 17-year campaign of package bombings attributed to the Unabomber. And that, this day in sports history.
6:48 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Thank you, Jeff. We get this from the Yates Flooring Center chat line, and you can weigh in as well. If you think you're cold, check this out. Darren from Buffalo, our friend from Buffalo, says, "Greetings from Buffalo. Stay warm, y'all." And then has a nice picture of the sunrise there in Buffalo town. And then a picture of his dash that says -8 at 7:41 Buffalo time.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good luck, Darren.
Yikes. He says, "Jamie, go Bills." So, there you go.
Reminds me of a story my dad tells. The last winter that he and my mom lived in the Chicago area before they moved, it dropped below zero. No, it dropped below freezing and stayed there for like 40 days. And like around day 35, he says, "I do not know where we will be living next year. I know it will not be here."
Okay. That seems like a wise decision by your father. Yeah. Was this prior to you?
Oh, well prior to me. Well prior to me.
Okay. Somebody asked this question. This is for you, Jamie. Will Clark was cockier than Ricky Henderson?
Yeah, I think Ricky Henderson was known as... I think there was a cocky there, but I think he was more known as being clueless.
True.
Being not very smart. I think Will Clark was known for being cocky.
The John Olerud story is still my favorite.
Yeah. They say that's not true, though. But
who says it's not true?
I saw some articles on that when Ricky Henderson died, that the John Olerud story where he's at first base and he goes, "Hey, I used to play with a guy that wore a batting helmet." And anyway.
Yeah, Ricky, that was me.
Yeah, Ricky, that was me. So some say it's true and some say it's not true, but it's better that it's true. And I think the other thing too is there was a certain charm to Ricky Henderson's, self-proclaiming of himself as being the greatest.
Ricky being Ricky.
Will Clark, huh?
Ricky being Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky being Ricky. Yeah, Ricky being Ricky. And Will Clark, he was just that guy that thought he was the smartest guy, the best guy, most talented guy in the room, and then he kind of told you about it as well. So
he's a great player.
At any rate, yeah. Somebody wants some Journey for Steve Perry's birthday. Okay, would have to be the Journey with Steve Perry though. Can't be the other guy. Saw this morning, and this comes as no surprise. And I generally believe that Bills fans do this not as a way to mock or put it in somebody's face, but just because they're good fans. But Bills fans have now donated more than $48,000 to Mark Andrews' charity. His charity is Breakthrough TD1, which is an organization that dedicates itself to juvenile diabetes research and advocacy. Of course, Andrews is the guy that fumbled a ball and dropped a 2-point conversion that would have tied the game on Sunday against the Bills for the Baltimore Ravens. And I feel like that when we've seen this over the years, because this is not the first time this happened. This happens almost every year. That I feel like that's genuine, Jamie, by the Bills fans.
It's just all part of what the Bills Mafia does. It's kind of what made the Bills Mafia the Bills Mafia. That's their thing. Yeah. That's how the way the group was created. So, yeah.
I like it better when they do it in the regular season when it's a team they didn't play that helped them, as opposed to this.
Yeah, I'm sure Mark Andrews is happy that his foundation got the donation, but at the same time knows it came at a price, so to speak.
Like when the the initial one was they donated a bunch to the quarterback because he had a 4-touchdown game in a game where they needed them to win to make the playoffs. Right. That's a congratulations and thank you fund. Mm-hmm. This feels a little nenny boo boo.
I'm going to stick up for them because I think they've done this time and time and time again. So I don't feel like that they're kind of throwing it in anybody's face. I think this is genuine.
I would probably fall into thinking it's a little bit of combination of both.
Okay. Somebody says this off the Yates Flooring Center chat line.
I just don't know how Mark
active kindness.
Yeah, I don't know how Mark Andrews couldn't feel. Again, just like I said, hey, glad they made a donation. That's cool. I mean, it's not like they were on Twitter making GIFs laughing at him. They made a donation. At the same time, if he catches that ball, he knows they're not doing it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So
that's correct.
I mean, it's kind of a little bit of column A, column B.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Robert, our Yankee fan, writes in, Reggie Jackson was the original hot dog. Hot dog. That might be our first hot dog of 2025, Jamie. Not that we're keeping track of those kinds of things, but they do have a tendency to run in seasons, certain sayings that maybe I say or others.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
The Morning Drive, good morning with Jamie Lent, Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Hines. Great to have you with us today on the Morning Drive. I feel like people are just waiting for me to say something stupid so that it could be the, Chucky Mike, dumb, what is it? The
dumb take of the day?
Huh?
Crazy take of the day or?
Great. No, it wasn't the crazy take of the day. It was the
Chucky Mike's dumb take of the day.
Dumb take of the day. Somebody says, did Chuck just say a 3-point shot is an extra point? LOL. Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to make a point about, the fact that you had the same number of field goals made last night as Cincinnati, yet you win by 10. And, the difference in it is you had one more free throw made, one less attempt, and then you had 9 more threes made than they did, but both teams made 27 field goals. And it goes back to what we were just talking about, that, you live by it, you die by it, and maybe one of these days it could come up and bite you in the tail if you don't figure out a way to either do a better job defensively. I mean, but holding a team to 71 points, especially in the Big 12, I mean, that's a good number.
That's decent. I mean, it's not as good as you have been in these last two wins against K-State and Arizona, but it's still solid. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
it's a good number. I mean, in terms of I don't know the total number on the men's side, but like on the women's side, 34. I believe this is correct. 34 of the 44 games that have been played through Saturday's games. Okay. The winning team had scored at least 70 points. So it's not quite as prolific as on the men's side, but I'll bet if you looked at it, I bet the majority of those games are going to be 65, 70 plus. And then from a defensive standpoint, probably for the most part, those games are going to be in the high 60s, low 70s. I would think, but that's just kind of, without doing the research on it, but that's just kind of a little tidbit for you. All right, elsewhere in the Big 12 last night, your next opponent, Oklahoma State, lost to Arizona 92-78. And Jamie, just one thing looking at the box score from that game, they had 2 guys off the bench that played significant minutes for Oklahoma State. One played 28, one played 30. The guy that played 28, Avery, he had 21 points, and Newman had 12 points. So 31 of their 78 came off the bench, and they didn't have anybody else score that came off the bench for them last night. And then as far as Oklahoma State, on their starters, they had 2 on double figures. They had 4 in double figures. They're not the patsy that they were a couple of years ago. They're starting to kind of get things together. They're not great, but they're not the kind of the pushover that they were a couple of years ago when, the bottom fell out on Oklahoma State basketball.
Yeah, 2-5 so far on the year. I would agree with that analysis. I don't think they're terrible as they have been in the past, but at the same time, I don't think they're. It's definitely a game where you feel like the Red Raiders really need to get that one at home against a 2-5 team. Their 2 wins in conference play, coming at home against Colorado and at home against Kansas State. They actually beat Kansas State by 13, where you had the close game and won by 4 against them.
Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes, not that you want an ugly win all the time, but I think sometimes an ugly win tells you some things about your team that, that's got some chutzpah and the ability to cobble it together and, the ability to kind of, figure it out even when things are all those cliches, Jamie, that when you have that ugly game like you did against K-State and you walk away with a victory, I think to me sometimes that says as much about your team as when you win by 10 on the road like you did last night.
Well, I don't know what that word you used was, but I think we talked about it earlier. You have to be able to win with your offense on certain days, and you have to be able to win with your defense on certain days. And I think when you look at that Kansas State game, that was really an ugly finish to the game. The entire game wasn't ugly, but it was an ugly finish by the 2 teams. You clearly won that game based on your defense. Now you go back to this past Saturday, and again, close game with 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, and your offense played well, but at the same time, your defense really stepped up again. So it's been the defense in these key situations down the stretch, or at least it was last week, that really came through, and then your offense did one of the 2 games. But it's good to be able to win different ways, and sometimes it's high-scoring games, and sometimes it's low-scoring games, but just find a way to win, and that's what you did in that Kansas State game.
Okay, so you got a little time between now and Sunday to get your feet underneath you and get your legs back. And then after you play Oklahoma State, it's a real quick turnaround. You'll play TCU at 6 on Wednesday and then come back and play a week from this Saturday at what is now number 7, Houston. And so I think the Cougars keep getting better. Do you think they're the best team in the Big 12 at this point? I mean, they're 6-0, Iowa State 6-1, Arizona 6-1, Texas Tech's 5-2.
I think those 2 teams at the top there, Houston and Iowa State, are both really, really good. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see, either one of those teams win the Big 12 conference,
and then potentially make a
deep
run of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tonight in the Big 12, you have number 12 Kansas playing at TCU. That's been a problem spot for them over the years. That's a 6 o'clock tip tonight from Fort Worth. And then tonight in Waco, Kansas State at 7-10 overall will play 11-6 Baylor. Before we get to the Houston game, I want to talk about K-State and Baylor. Baylor's not – they've not been maybe what we thought they were going to be. Jamie?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that's fair to say. I think that at least I'll speak for myself, feeling like they were, definitely top 4, and it feels like they've slipped a little bit past that. We'll see if they're able to kind of turn it around, but the start of Big 12 play has been pretty mediocre for them.
And I think you would say the same thing about Kansas State. Maybe even more, you would say that about K-State than you would say that about Baylor, and that they've not been the team that you thought that they were going to be. I mean, they're 7-10 and 1-5 in Big 12 play, so they're really looking for a road win tonight. And that's a team that I think people had much higher expectations for than 1-5 and 7-10.
Yeah, I didn't think that they were a top 5 team in the Big 12 conference heading into this season, but expected them to be, maybe right behind the Red Raiders, somewhere in the 6, 7, 8 range, and it feels like they've dropped off dramatically from that.
It'll be interesting to see what happens later today in Houston as number 7 Houston hosts Utah. Utah has been here since Monday, and Houston is the number 7 team in the country, and they'll play at 5 tonight at the Fertitta Center. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a crowd they'll have because of the weather conditions, and folks and who knows, maybe people will be all cooped up and they're like, hey, let's go to the Fertitta Center because might be able to get a good seat. The Cougs are 6-0, 14-3 overall. Utah, I think, still kind of trying to. I mean, even though the Red Raiders beat them, and that's one of their 3 losses, they're 3-3 and 11-6 on the season.
But they've won 3 in a row. They're a hot team right now. Okay,
I didn't know that. So yeah, there you go. So I guess that's after they lost 4 in a row. Their last game of the non-conference to Iowa, then lost at Baylor on New Year's Eve, lost to Tech at home on the 4th, lost at Iowa State, then came back and they won over Oklahoma State, won at TCU, won at home against BYU in overtime, and now face number 7 Houston today at 5. So we'll see. We'll see how good they are. Maybe they can knock off the Cougs. That would help level out the Big 12 a little bit.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to Red Raider football today for today's question. I ask you today, what coach, or I'll allow you to say 2 coaches, what 2 coaches in Big 12 football have the most pressure to get to the conference championship game this next upcoming season?
Well, one is here in Lubbock. I mean, you just can't spend all the money that they spent without some expectations. And as much as there's expectations on the softball team, not only to win the Big 12 or host a regional, but to get to the College World Series for a team that's never done any of that in terms of hosting a regional and getting to the College World Series. I think there's that pressure. And then in terms of just the pressure of getting to the Big 12 championship game, I think it starts with Joey McGuire. And I'll say pressure. I guess I'd put Iowa State on that list. Matt Campbell. I think there's expectations there. I don't think they're going to fire him, though. I don't think either one of those guys is going to get fired if they don't make it to the Big 12 championship game. But I think there's some pressure there between those two schools.
Okay.
Joey McGuire is an obvious answer for this question. For one, a second one, and I don't know that it's get to the Big 12 championship game, but get back to competing for a Big 12 championship. I'm kind of changing your question here, and I apologize for that. But I imagine Stillwater is going to riot if they don't get things fixed in Oklahoma State. And I know they had 1 win last year, so the expectation can't be Big 12 championship title game. But he's got the most pressure in the conference for getting that figured out, for everything that went wrong last year. And
that's a good answer.
But again, I don't know that it really there's no way they expect him to go to the Big 12 championship game, but he's got the most pressure. I feel I would insult him if I didn't say that goes in this way, and I don't want to do that with Mike Gundy. So that's not really answering your question, but I feel like it's the best answer, if that makes sense.
Okay. I will definitely agree with you guys, and obviously it's who we pay attention to the most as Red Raider fans, but I definitely feel like Joey McGuire is one that I feel like has a good amount of pressure to get to the conference championship game. I feel like Utah has a lot of pressure with Whittingham because that's a program that, has played in Pac-12 championship games, and they felt like they were coming in here to run the Big 12. They were favored to win it last year, and it was terrible. So at 2-7 in conference play, 5-7 overall. So I feel like there's a decent amount of pressure there. The one other guy that I would throw into the mix, I say Deion Sanders. I think this is a big year for him because the knock on Deion, and I don't know that I necessarily am buying into it, but the knock on Deion, or the question that everybody has, was this about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. You had two of the greatest players in college football last year, and can Deion do it without those two superstar players? And so I think there's pressure on Deion, maybe not as much to get to a conference championship game, but to be a conference championship game contender at least. And so I think there's pressure on Deion this upcoming season too.
And I thought one of you guys might say this after I kind of thought about it a little bit more and kind of looked at the list, but I think a guy that's got a lot of pressure on him is Sonny Dykes at TCU. Just from the standpoint that he got him to a national championship game, albeit not all his players, but he got them there. And SMU is taking over the headlines in Dallas because of what they did in getting to the college football playoff last year. So Sonny Dykes may be a guy that's on that list too in terms of. I
thought about him, but I mean, first off, there was the national championship game not too long ago, and then I feel like nobody really remembers it or whatever, but it felt like a mediocre season, and they were 9-4. They were 9-4 last year. Okay, you never felt like they were a great football team, but they ended up 9-4. So I don't feel like people are too down about that. You had mentioned Iowa State before. I don't think there's pressure there. They were just in the conference championship game.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah. That was a bad answer.
I don't know that it was a bad answer because
they just have high expectations every year. But that's one thing. But I don't think they're
not going to fire him if he doesn't get there. But it's also we've gotten there. We should have won last year.
Yeah. Well, the three guys I mentioned, I don't think they're getting fired if they don't get there. I just feel like there's pressure on them to get there.
Choice Woodman chimes in from Whereabouts Unknown. The fine host of The Bottom Line. You hear him on Double T 97.3 as well. He says this is so choice. He said, easily, Chris Kleiman. He got rid of Will Howard for Avery Johnson. If Johnson doesn't perform, then it falls on him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with choice. Yeah,
no, I don't either. It was just funny when he said easily, like, you guys are stupid.
Yeah, I thought about them before, but I just feel like he's so well respected there that I don't feel like he has the pressure that the other guys do.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. But that was I agree. That was a good answer by choice. Chris Kleiman at K-State. All right, it's 7:39 this morning here on the Morning Drive. If you have a lot to chime in about, you can on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, Visual Edge IT hotline. We get this. Tech has a lot of pressure to make it to the conference championship game. Not sure I've ever heard those words. Things have changed. Love it. Yeah. This Utah is also the added pressure to the AD running his mouth about being in the conference. Yep, there's that as well.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
With Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire, I'm Chuck Hines. It's great to have you amongst us today. On this day, the work gets done. We'll have Lady Raider basketball today at 12:30, the tip at 1 from Houston as they take on the Cougars at the Fertitta Center. You can hear it on 107.7, the Red Dirt Rebel, and 100.7, the Score. Last night, the Red Raiders in Cincinnati took down the Bearcats and get their fourth Big 12 road win of the season. And Jamie, this from the Yates Flooring Center chat line. See what you think about this. I'll predict, this texter, that Texas Tech will go 14-6 in conference play if we can stay healthy. We have a lot of weapons that can score on any given night. Reckham.
So a texter earlier on the Yates Flooring Center chat line asked us if we would take 14-6. You're 5-2 at this point. So basically, 7 games in, you're basically 1/3 of the way there to 20. So if you tripled that, you'd get close to 14-6. I would take 14-6 right now if you offered it to me. My prediction yesterday was 13-7, and that's kind of where I am even after winning last night.
Yeah, I think you'd go 9-4 for the rest of the way. It's still a really, really good season. That's going to put you in a good spot going into the Big 12 tournament, which we all know doesn't mean a whole lot. But you don't want to go there and go one and done. You don't have to win the thing, but if you're 14-6 going into the Big 12 tournament, you'd like to at least win a game, maybe 2, if you get a little greedy, to help either keep where you are in terms of your seeding going into it or improve your lie just a little bit. And some of that might be like where you're going to play or who you're going to play or what your seeding is going to be. So it all kind of factors in there. But man, starting to feel really good about this basketball team. I mean, they win 81-71 last night. They were kind of balanced in their scoring in terms of you get 20 from Toppin, you get 18 from Christian Anderson, you get 17 from Chance McMillan, you get 14 from Kevin. Like you're relying on one guy that if it's not this guy that's scoring, then you're not gonna win or have a chance to win, Jamie.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You're spreading the ball around nicely. I feel like that's one of the things that we've mentioned a bunch that you've done all season long is you've shared the basketball. I mean, I do, I'm a little bit nervous just moving forward, knowing that, you've got a couple games on the schedule with Houston. You've got to play on the road at Kansas. I mean, there are tough games in front of you, and that's why I don't feel like, oh man, I wouldn't take 14-6. This team's gonna, run the table or end up with 3 losses or something like that. No, I think there's a tough schedule in front of you, and you've obviously played one of the better teams in Iowa State, and I think you would probably say coulda, shoulda won that game. Yeah. And you didn't get that win, but still, you're right there in the mix, So you got to feel good about where you are and feel good about the progress the team has made since that first game of the conference season where you just defensively, especially defending the perimeter, were not very good. You've improved in that area a bunch, and it's been fun to watch this team continue to get better as the season has gone along.
Yeah, so if you kind of look at this kind of moving forward now a little bit, your road games are at Houston on February 1st, at Arizona the next Saturday on February the 8th. Then the next Saturday, so the next 3 Saturdays, and we've played a lot of Saturday road games. You're at Oklahoma State.
Didn't we just play 2 in a row at home?
I guess so. I guess. Yeah. You're not wrong. And we're playing Sunday. Okay. That's fair. Okay, that's fair. You're playing, but you go through. You're out 3 weeks in a row on a Saturday. Houston, Arizona, Okie State, and then you have a Tuesday road game at TCU on the 18th, and then you go at Kansas on March the 1st, and at Arizona State on the 8th. So 2, 4, looks like 6, 2, 4, 6. So you have 6 road games left, Jamie. Now the question is, to get to your 14, you got to defend home court and then find 2 more road wins.
To get to 14, and that's assuming you're going to win all of your home games.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You've done a really good job of that so far.
Yeah.
I know. But I mean, to get to just kind of looking at it and going, okay, you're at Houston. I feel like you can win at Oklahoma State. I feel like you can win at Arizona State. I feel like you can win at TCU. And I'm not saying you can't win at Houston, you can't win at Arizona, you can't win at Kansas. It's just those are going to be tough places to play. You're going to really kind of find what you're made of. If you come in here to Houston on February the 1st and knock off the Cougars, man, your expectations start to change, don't they?
That's a big if, yes.
Yeah.
That's a big if.
There's our starting this season 11-0 in Big 12 play for the run a couple years ago for Chuck. We win this one, we win this one, and look at this, we're on a roll, and all of a sudden we're undefeated in Big 12 play.
We're playing in the national championship. Wheel out the trophy, man. Start playing in the parade.
Hold up on that car wash.
Right. It's not the dumb take of the day, but it might be close.
No. That's just you getting excited. That's different.
Yeah, and this team is good enough to dream a little. So I don't think you're crazy for thinking you have a chance to win some of those road games. I would tell you, between at Houston, at Arizona, and at Kansas, that I would predict that you lose all three, but I'm also going to say that you're going to get one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, on paper, you would say that, that's probably lost, but you're good enough that you're probably going to steal one of those. I don't know which one it'll be.
And then your home games are against TCU, against Baylor, against Arizona State, West Virginia, Houston, and Colorado. So right now, Houston on paper are your two toughest games, I think, away and at home. But I think, aside from, let's just say you steal one of those three on the road, then you don't want to give one away at home, but you have a little wiggle room. But man, if you finish 14-6, I'm sure that the team would say, well, that we expect more. But I think if you asked average Joe citizen or Jane citizen in Lubbock, you go, oh, that's more than what I can expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.